It started on a quiet Thursday evening, the kind of night where the rain never really falls, but the sky still smells like it might. Evelyn sat by the window, knitting a scarf she'd never finish. Her house was silent, too silent. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort you. It watches you. The clock ticked on the wall. She hadn't changed the number in 10 years. People told her she should, that it would help her move on. But how do you move on from a voice you're scared to forget? Then the phone rang. That old rotary sound, soft and haunting. She almost didn't answer, but something in her heart moved. Her fingers shook as she picked it up. Hello? A crackle, a breath. Then, Mom? Her blood froze. The scarf slipped from her hands. The room tilted. That voice she thought she'd never hear again. Michael? She whispered. Yes, Mom. It's me. Her throat tightened. Tears built before she even believed them. This isn't real, she breathed, but the voice smiled through the static. You always say that when you're scared. She pressed the phone closer to her ear. Where are you? I'm somewhere peaceful, he said, but I needed to talk to you. You still keep my room the same. Her hand covered her mouth. How do you know that? I see it, he said softly. The glove on the shelf. The photo from my birthday. The candle you still light on my day. Her tears fell faster. The ache she carried for years cracked open. Why now? She asked. Why after all this time? Static hummed between them, like a breath from another world. Then his voice came, fragile but warm. Because you stopped living, Mom. And I can't rest until you do. She held the phone tighter. Her voice shook. What do you mean? You were always my safe place, he said. Now it's your turn to find yours. She tried to reply, but her words broke. Michael, wait! The line clicked, gone. Silence again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was full of something new, something alive, like grief had exhaled, like hope had remembered her name. The next morning, Evelyn woke up before dawn. The air still carried that strange weight, like the echo of a dream she couldn't shake off. She sat on the edge of her bed, the phone still on the nightstand, its cord tangled, its silence louder than any storm. She kept staring at it, half expecting it to ring again, half praying it wouldn't. The sunlight crept through her curtains, painting her wrinkled hands in gold. She whispered to herself, maybe I'm losing it. Maybe it was just a dream. But dreams don't leave marks, and her heart still ached from something too real. Evelyn walked to Michael's room. The door creaked like it remembered her touch. Inside, everything was just as he left it. The trophies, the posters, the baseball cap on the bedpost. She ran her hand across his desk, dust soft beneath her fingers. The scent of old books and time filled the air. And then she froze. The photograph on the shelf. The one from his 12th birthday. It was tilted slightly, like someone had touched it. Her breath caught. Michael? She whispered to the empty room. No answer. Only the sound of rain starting outside. Soft, hesitant drops against the windowpane. She sat on his bed, pressing the pillow to her chest. It still felt warm, though she couldn't explain why. Maybe warmth doesn't fade when love never does. Her neighbor, Mrs. Carter, stopped by around noon. Evelyn, you all right, dear? You look pale. Evelyn hesitated, then smiled faintly. I just didn't sleep much, she said. She didn't mention the call. How could she? People barely believe in heaven anymore, let alone phone calls from it. After Mrs. Carter left, Evelyn brewed tea and sat by the window again. The world outside looked normal. Children biking, a man walking his dog, the mailman humming under his breath. Normal, but she didn't feel normal. She felt like she was standing between two worlds, and one of them had just whispered her name. That night, she placed the phone beside her bed again. Just in case, she murmured. But the silence stayed. For 3 days, nothing. No static, no voice. Only her heartbeat keeping time with the ticking clock. Then, on the fourth night, it rang again. 3 short rings, just like Michael used to do when he was late coming home. Her breath hitched. She picked up. "Michael?" A pause. Then, "Mom, I don't have much time." Tears welled instantly. "Please, don't go again," she whispered. "I just got you back." "I'm not here to stay," his voice said gently. "I'm here so you can." And before she could ask what he meant, the line filled with soft humming. It wasn't static this time. It was music. A tune she remembered. The lullaby she used to sing him to sleep. Her tears fell quietly. He remembered. Evelyn didn't sleep that night. The lullaby echoed in her head long after the call ended. She sat by the window until morning, watching the horizon bloom with light, wondering if heaven had a sunrise too. When she finally stood, her knees trembled, not from age, from something heavier, something that felt like hope and grief holding hands. She made breakfast, burnt the toast, and laughed for the first time in years. The sound startled her. It felt foreign, like it belonged to another life. A life where Michael still sat at that table, asking for one more pancake. The phone stayed quiet that day, but she kept glancing at it like it might suddenly remember her again. She wanted to ask so much. Was he happy? Did he forgive her for not being there in time? Was he really watching her? Still? By evening, she decided to write him a letter, something she never got to do after the accident. Her hands shook as she held the pen, the ink trembling on paper like her thoughts. "My dear Michael," she began, "if this reaches you somehow, just know, I never stopped missing you. Not one morning, not one breath." Tears dotted the words, but she kept writing. She told him about the garden he loved, how the roses bloomed this year brighter than ever. She told him about Mrs. Carter's cat, how it still sneaks into their yard. She even told him about the dreams, the ones where she saw him running toward her, and always waking up just before he reached her. When she finished, she folded the letter neatly and placed it under the phone. "Just in case you call again," she whispered. Days passed, then weeks. No call came, but something had changed in her. She started going out again, walking to the market, talking to people she hadn't spoken to in years. The world hadn't changed, but she had. She wasn't waiting for death anymore. She was waiting for life to feel like his voice again. One evening, as she watered her plants, she heard the faintest hum from the living room. The phone, it wasn't ringing, it was glowing. A soft golden light from the dial, like the sun caught inside it. Her heart pounded. She walked slowly toward it, afraid to blink, afraid to breathe. Then the line clicked. A whisper came through, faint and warm. "Mom, thank you." Her eyes filled instantly. "For what?" she choked. "For letting go," he said. "You set me free." The light flickered once, and the room fell silent again. But this time, Evelyn didn't cry. She smiled through the tears, looked at the phone, and whispered, "Good night, my boy." The house felt different after that night. Not haunted, just quieter, softer, like every wall had finally exhaled. Evelyn began to open the windows again, letting sunlight touch corners that had known only dust and sorrow. Each morning she brewed 2 cups of tea, one for herself, one for Michael. She'd place his cup beside the phone, smiling at the reflection of steam in the light. "Good morning, sweetheart," she'd whisper. And though the phone stayed silent, it never felt empty again. One afternoon, she found something she hadn't noticed before. Under Michael's desk, wedged behind an old shoebox, was a cassette tape. Her hands trembled as she pulled it free. A label, faded but legible. "For Mom, 2012. Her breath caught. She still had an old player in the attic. After dusting it off, she pressed play. The tape crackled, and then his voice. Clear, laughing, alive. "Hey, Mom, if you're hearing this, it probably means I never got to say goodbye. But don't be sad, okay? You always said love never dies. It just changes rooms." Her tears fell freely now, but they were gentle, not sharp. She listened as his voice went on, talking about his dreams, his friends, the way he wanted her to keep painting, keep living. "Promise me," he said softly, "you'll still find beauty, even when it hurts to look." When the tape ended, Evelyn sat in silence for a long time. The world outside was golden, sunset spilling across the floor. She whispered into the light, "I promise." That night she slept without the phone beside her. In her dream, she saw Michael standing by the shore, waves breaking softly behind him. He waved once, and then turned toward the horizon. This time, she didn't wake up crying. She woke up smiling, because for the first time in 10 years, the voice in her heart wasn't saying goodbye. It was saying, "Live." Evelyn didn't sleep that night. The lullaby still echoed in her head, every note threading through the silence like a ghost that refused to rest. She sat by the phone, her hands trembling, a cup of tea gone cold beside her. At 3 a.m., the street outside was empty. Only the wind moved, whispering through the trees like it carried secrets. She closed her eyes, and for the first time, she whispered back, "Michael, if you can hear me, I'm listening." The phone stayed quiet. But something else changed. The house. It didn't feel empty anymore. It felt watched. Not in a frightening way, but in a way that made her heart remember how it once felt to be needed. Morning came slowly. She made breakfast, just one plate out of habit, then stopped halfway. On the counter was another plate, clean, dry, but placed beside hers. She hadn't taken it out. She knew she hadn't. Her breath caught. "Michael?" she said softly. No answer, only the faint smell of his old cologne, drifting from nowhere. By afternoon, she walked to town, clutching her coat close. She stopped by the church, the same one where his funeral was held 10 years ago. The candles flickered quietly, like little breaths of the past. She lit one, closed her eyes, and whispered, "He called me." Father Donovan looked up from the pew. "Who called you?" She hesitated. "My son." The priest didn't smile, didn't laugh. He just nodded, slowly. Sometimes love finds a way back when faith refuses to die. That night, she returned home. The house felt heavier, darker. As she entered Michael's room, she saw it, his baseball glove lying open on the desk. Inside it, a folded piece of paper. Her hands shook as she opened it. The handwriting was unmistakable. "Mom, stop waiting by the phone. Start living for the world I can't. You'll know when to call me again." Tears blurred the ink. Her heart thudded like it remembered what hope felt like. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The clock on the wall, frozen at the time of his accident, began to tick again. Slow at first, then steady. She looked at it, speechless. Every tick sounded like a heartbeat returning to life. Outside, the rain had stopped. The clouds broke open, revealing the first full moon she'd seen in months. And in that silver glow, for the briefest moment, she saw him, standing by the gate, smiling, just like before. She ran outside, barefoot, her heart pounding. But when she reached the gate, he was gone. Only the scent of rain and a single white feather lay on the ground. She held it close to her chest and whispered, "I'm still here, Michael." And somewhere beyond the night, a faint whisper answered, "I know, Mom." But not for long. Evelyn couldn't move. That whisper. It wasn't a dream this time. Her heart pounded like thunder trapped in her chest. She looked down at the feather in her hand. It shimmered faintly, almost pulsing with light. Just once, then still again. She took it inside, placed it gently on Michael's photo frame. But the moment she turned away, she heard it. A soft click. The photo had fallen face down. She froze, every muscle locked. Slowly she picked it up again, her fingers trembling. Behind the frame, taped to the back, was another note. Different paper, same handwriting. Mom, time's almost up. Don't let the storm take you. Her breath hitched. The storm, she whispered. Outside, the wind began to rise. Sudden, sharp, howling through the night like something alive. Lightning flashed. The lights flickered once, twice. Then everything went dark. She fumbled for a candle, struck a match. The tiny flame wavered, shadows stretching long across the walls. And then the phone rang. One single ring. Then silence. She picked it up anyway. Michael? No sound, just a faint, low hum, like a voice beneath the static. It grew louder, clearer, until she could almost make out words. The basement. Her blood ran cold. What? But the voice faded, gone like a breath in winter. She stared toward the basement door. It hadn't been opened in years, not since that night. For a long time she just stood there, clutching the candle. The flame trembled with her heartbeat. Then, slowly, she took a step. The stairs groaned under her feet. Each creak felt like it echoed through time itself. At the bottom, the air was cold, heavy. She lifted the candle higher. Dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts, old boxes, broken furniture. And then, her eyes caught something on the floor, a trail of water, leading to the far corner. She followed it, every breath loud in her ears. And there, half buried beneath an old sheet, was something she didn't remember keeping. A phone, rotary, just like the one upstairs, but this one was ringing. Her heart nearly stopped. She reached out, shaking. The candle flickered wildly as she lifted the receiver. Mom, the voice whispered, clearer now, closer. I told you not to wait by the phone. Her throat tightened. Michael, where are you? Silence. Then the faint sound of rain, and another voice, not his, a woman's voice, soft cold, whispering through the line. He's not the one calling anymore. The candle went out, darkness swallowed everything, and somewhere through the static came the sound of a child laughing, faint, distant, and wrong. Evelyn stood frozen, her breath shallow, eyes locked on the basement door. The phone had stopped ringing, but she could still feel it, that vibration, that pull, like the house was breathing, waiting. Michael, she whispered again, barely a breath. No answer. Only the distant rumble of thunder rolling closer. She backed away slowly, but the floorboards beneath her feet groaned, long, low, and warning. Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw movement. One of the fallen photo frames had turned itself upright. It was Michael's. Her pulse spiked. The glass shimmered faintly, and for just a heartbeat she swore she saw him inside the frame, smiling, alive. Mom. The faint echo of his voice drifted through the air, soft as wind. Don't go. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Then tell me what to do, she begged. The lights flickered once. The TV turned on by itself, static roaring across the screen. Through the static, shapes moved, shadows, faces. And in the middle of it, Michael's eyes staring right at her. Find the red door, he whispered, before she does. The screen cracked. Sparks flew. The smell of burning plastic filled the room. Evelyn stumbled back coughing, covering her face. When she looked again, the TV was off. But on the black screen, written in fog, were two words, "She's here." A cold gust swept through the room. Curtains fluttered. And from behind her came the faint click of the basement door unlocking.